Starting. Recording demos is always a little sketchy because Unreal Engine and all this other software running at the same time on this computer. But we're going to try our best. If you're following along, try keep up. You'll have the video. If you're just watching, that's cool too. Most people just watch. So for you Unreal Engine newbies, let me know if you need more support after class. Like I said at the beginning of class, it's not Unreal Engine 101, so we're not going to spend much time talking about that stuff. But let's just dive into it. Awesome. That's interesting. One sec, let me restart. So like I said at the beginning of class, we are using the Unreal Editor and the Epic Launcher. So I'm going to create a new project. I've already created one in the interest of time, although for some reason it's not popping up here. That's interesting. But let's ignore that problem for right now. So when you launch Unreal Engine after you download the engine, it gives you a bunch of choices as far as templates go to use to start a project. For this class, we're not making games. These are all just templates. They just have different plugins turned on and off and different sample content. Otherwise, they're exactly the same. You could take a game project and make it into an in-camera VFX project. It doesn't really matter. But my suggestion for this class, in terms of making things simpler for you, would be to use the film video sample projects and just blank. Eventually, later in the semester, we'll be using in-camera VFX, but that's a project that I'm just giving you rather than you making one from scratch. But for these projects over the next couple weeks, film, video, blank, call it whatever you want. Be wary of where you save it to and rename it something other than my project. Can't tell you how many students just call it my project, and then I have 20 different my projects, and I have no idea what's going on. Chaos. So blank, create. I've already created one, so we don't have to wait for it to process. There's a couple plugins that I like to suggest to turn on. So edit plugins. I like to have the ProRes turned on, which is nice because it already is because we did the film and video. So I just went to edit plugins and then just typed in ProRes. I know I talk a lot of crap about Apple, but I do like their codec. I like to turn on DNX HD, even though you will probably never use that. DNX HR and HD is an alternative codec to ProRes. Whenever you turn on a plugin, for the most part, I think it's pretty much every plugin, Unreal is going to prompt you to restart the editor. So just be aware that that's a thing. Usually I turn on all my plugins all at once and then I'll restart and then come back up. Other things that will be on by default, movie render queue, already turned on. Sometimes this is turned off if you choose a different sample project to start from. That's why I suggest the film and video templates and blank, because all this stuff is already turned on. And that's pretty much it for all we need right now. Okay, this is a filmmaking class, so we are going to bring video footage straight into Unreal Engine. We're going to start with something that's already keyed out and just bring it in as a media plate into Unreal Engine. Maybe plop some assets around it, put a camera, and try to render it out. That is your assignment, is to make an Unreal Engine composite. Browse the marketplace, aka Fab, and build a simple world. And then take some sort of green screen footage, key it out, and put it in that world. Uh, think about telling some sort of story vaguely. This is more of a technical exercise, so don't freak out too much about it. It's mostly just making sure that we can get video footage into Unreal, okay? And that we all feel comfortable-ish building some sort of world, okay? This is like just a check mark for me to root out people that need a little bit more support. If you need more support, that's absolutely fine. Remember, most of the time people taking this class have little to no 3D experience or Unreal experience. Let me know if you need more help. You can do that after class too. Happy to help. What was I doing? All right, in Unreal. Okay, so what I want to do is I gave you a ton of files. I'm not sure how many of these we're going to use today, but if you unzip the folder called Shanti, I think everybody should have this folder. Yes, yes. Silence, absolute silence. Okay, some shakes of heads, other people unsure what they're doing here in New York City at this moment in time. Shanti folder. Okay, this is all that Miley riding her cat here. Her cat's name is Shanti. So a bunch of PNGs. You might be thinking, wow, is this guy recording this demo? He is. Might be thinking, wow, that guy just talked a bunch of crap about 8-bit files, and here's a bunch of PNGs. It's what we're working with right now. In the future, I'm going to show you how to work with better files, like EXR files, which are pretty much what's used in compositing. They can have layers, which is super cool. They can be much higher bit depth than 8-bit. You can have all sorts of cool masks embedded in them, but that's way over our head right now. If you know anything about compositing programs, maybe you've used EXRs before. Remember, at the end of the day, we just start trying to get a picture out, right? I'm not gonna bust your chops too much if I'm like, oh, is that a PNG file or is that a JPEG? I'm never gonna know for the most part, right? I'm just here to give suggestions, and you use what works best for you. You know, years from now, you'll look back and be like, oh, PNG files, that's why I'm not using them. In this case, we're using a PNG file and it's going to be fine. This is an image sequence. What is an image sequence? It is a sequence of images that make up a video. In this class, we don't really use video files. When we use those fancy cameras that I showed you last week, they're going to render out Blackmagic RAW file, which is a bunch of stills. It's an image sequence. You put all those stills together and they create video footage, which is really what video is. It's just a bunch of stills, depending on how many frames you have. Hold down the button, look at that. It's playing the files very quickly. All right, let's get this into Unreal Engine. Question? EXR files. Well, that's too scary to talk about right now. EXR files is like the legit go-to file format. We're using PNGs because there's transparency in this background, right? JPEGs, we wouldn't have transparency. So bare minimum PNG file is good for us. I think with 5.6, Unreal Engine can now import PNG file, or not PNG, PSD files from Photoshop, but I haven't tried that yet. Let's jump back over to Unreal. And we're going to go to our content browser, which maybe you don't have it open. I don't know. It depends on the template. If you don't have the content browser open, you can get to it by going to the content drawer. This little window will pop open. I find this a little annoying because it always kind of retracts after you click off of it. That helps if you're working on a little laptop. But I always like to dock it in my layout. So usually I'm working on multiple big ass monitors, so I'll even pull it to another screen. Do whatever works for you. But the content browser is where I'm going to start to add files. I am not going to import these PNG files into Unreal Engine. I'm going to add this file called image media source. So I'm going to click on the button here that called add with the plus button. Every time I zoom in, it freezes everything and I have to undo. So you're welcome for the zooming in, but apologies for it reverts every time. Add button, media, image media source. It even says media source for EXR image sequences. You can also use BMPs, PNGs, JPEGs. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to stop me. Also, while I'm doing these demos, I'm kind of head down on the laptop, so just yell out, stop, and I'll look up. Media, IMG, image media source. I usually like to call this IMS, image media source, and I'll call it Shanti for Shanti the cat. Little refresher with Unreal Engine, or if you've never used it before, when you make new files or you import files, they get this little asterisk next to them when they are not saved. If you go to, there's two ways to save in Unreal Engine. One, save current level, which is just saving the level, things you place in the level, values that you change in the level. It's not necessarily saving new things that you added to the project. So my suggestion is always for everybody to do save all, okay? There's also a save all button right down here in the content browser. Check it out. Right now, there's a little asterisk on that. When I click save all, that's going to say, hey, you want to save this? Yes, I do. And look at that, it disappeared. Now, if I close down this project, my computer crashes, whatever, I boot it back up, and this file that I spent very little time creating is still here. Remember to save. Don't make me tell you I told you so. Add, okay, image media source. Oops, didn't mean to add that one. Image media source file. Let's double click on that file. This image media source is the file that is going to reference our image sequence on our computer's hard drive in Explorer or Finder or whatever. So right now it's a big black box. You go over here to sequence path, see the little dots over here? You click the little dots, it's gonna open up Finder or Explorer. Browse to wherever your images are that you wanna bring in. I don't know where you put them. Just click on the first one. It's an image sequence. The software is going to recognize that these are sequentially numbered and import them as one piece. You don't need to shift select or anything. So select the first one, open. Other things that you can do. I know this was shot at 30 frames a second. Usually Unreal does a decent job figuring this out, especially if it's an image sequence. But you can manually set the frame rate here. If you click on the advanced dropdown, I'm going to click on 30 frames per second. And still, nothing seems like it happened. It's black. This is the moment of truth right here. You click the open button up top in the toolbar. Ta-da! It should play. And you should get a nice green bar down here. Depending on how much RAM your computer has, this may be choppy or not. In the future, might be good to talk about proxy media. If you've ever done video editing before, you know that usually you don't just edit your 12K footage straight up on your laptop. Usually you will render out lower resolution versions of that software because you don't really need to edit in that resolution until the final render, right? If your computer is really struggling with this, is anybody following along and their computer is absolutely dying right now? Good. Putting those MacBooks to work. If your computer is dying, in the future, you could think about rendering this out at lower resolution, okay? Remember, we are not doing our final composite in Unreal. So you can, in the end, you can always come back in After Effects and put in the high resolution video, right? We can replace this low resolution preview. Obviously, you don't want it to look like three giant pixels and you can't tell what's going on in Unreal. You don't know how to build the world around it. But those are some tips for you to help with your struggling computer. This should be no problem for anybody. This is pretty low resolution. You know, you might want to consider bringing in like 4K image sequences if your computer can handle it. Out of the box, Unreal Engine tops out at 8K textures. An 8K image sequence will start to bog down your machine, no problem. And it's kind of unnecessary because, again, we're doing our final compositing in another software. You might notice that this looks like garbage right now, up close. Everybody agree this looks like garbage? I think it looks awesome. How dare you? It doesn't really matter. This is just a low resolution preview. Don't worry about it too much. Go ahead and click the save button in the top left. Again, you can see the little asterisks right there, the blurry asterisk zoomed in. Click the save button and close this window down. You will never open it again. All right, so that's the reference to our files. Now we need to do another new file. So we need to go to Add again, Media again, and Media Player. There's a couple different ways to create these files. Like with all softwares, you can go up to the menu, you can go to the content browser, you can go over here, you can use keyboard shortcuts. I show you one way because that's all we have time for, and it's usually what I think is the best way to teach, especially new people. If you have a way that is more successful for you, go for it, whatever. Also, there is another way to bring in video files into Unreal Engine, but that is not going to work for us on a timeline. So if you know about video plates in Unreal, it's not going to work for us. Do it this way. Media Player. It's going to pop up this pop-up saying, hey, do you want to also create a media texture? Yes, we do. Instead of manually going through this process again, let's just check this box and click OK. Usually I call this media player Shanti because that's the cat's name, and maybe I will also rename the media texture MT Shanti just to stay organized. I don't care if you rename yours. I already did my speech on organization. Now you're on your own. Also know that this new file now has the asterisks. You should probably save it. So here we have the image media source file, which is the reference to the image sequence on our hard drive. Main is the level. It's just the default level here. And MP Shanti is the media player, and MT Shanti is the media texture. It is a texture file that this is now turning into. Textures are graphic files. We will eventually turn this into a material, which is what we're going to do right now. So there's lots of different ways to create materials in Unreal Engine, but because we're creating a material specifically from this texture, we're just going to right-click on it. Right-click on it and say, Create Material. Create material using this texture. And it's going to create another new thing, which I will call M_Shanti. All these files. Materials in Unreal Engine are color-coded green. Materials, if you're new to 3D, think of materials as the paint that you put on 3D objects. Materials are created from textures. Textures are not paint. You need to use, textures are graphics that you then plug into materials. Think of, if we want to run with the paint analogy, think of textures like the pigments that you put into the material, which is the paint. Materials tell Unreal Engine what an object is supposed to look like graphically, how light is supposed to fall on that object. This is a very simple material that we're making right here. We're not going to do a deep dive into materials, but this is now a material file that can be dragged onto some sort of object. Let's create an object to put it on. This is a very boring world. It is just the default map. I'm going to click on this little button up top here, the quick add button. Drop down shapes, plane. Drop down shapes, plane. A plane is just a flat geometric plane. One-sided by default. Keep that in mind. If you get lost this week creating your composite, unless you make your material two-sided, you're not going to see it from the other side. Let's go ahead and drag our material, the green one, M_Shanti, onto our object. And you should see it turn black. Amazing. Where's my video at? You don't see your video because it's not playing yet. We don't have a mechanism for it to play. We have to create that still. If you're new to Unreal Engine, anything that you click on, there's a details panel over here in the bottom right by default. It tells you where it is in the world. It tells you how you can rotate it. It tells you which mesh it's using. You can add the material here as well. There's all sorts of different settings. Other quick tour thing in the top right in Unreal Engine, this is where the outliner is. In any 3D software, there's something called the outliner. It might be called something else in some other softwares. The outliner is a list of everything that is currently in your world. If you ever get lost and you like drag yourself out into Sky World and you have no idea what you're doing and you're tripping out, just double click on something in the outliner like floor or plane that we just created, and it will zap you back to that. Also, keyboard shortcut F for anything that you're clicked on will zoom you to that. F for focus. That's true with almost all 3D softwares too. So congratulations. We're still recording, which is good. And we have a black plane, which has an unplaying video on it. Let's open up the media player. Actually, first, let's go ahead and save all. Do you want to save this? Yes, I do. Let's open up the media player, the one with the TV. And if you kind of drag the window to the side, we should be able to have it play here. If you click on it in the bottom. And look at that, it pops up. It looks like crap, but that's all right. We'll fix that. But it's playing at least. It doesn't loop or anything like that, but it's playing. If it's playing for you, congratulations. You completed a third of the steps so far. What we just did by double clicking on it like that, in reality, that's not how we ever use the file. That's just like a quick tester to make sure that you've done everything correctly. It's just one quick way to test. Couple problems here. One, it's not transparent. Two, it's super blown out right now. And this is why we don't use Unreal Engine as a compositing tool, because Unreal Engine has limited color controls when it comes to compositing. It has built-in auto brightness, which you're going to have to manually turn off, which I'll show you at a future time. And it's just not meant for compositing unless you have to use it because you're doing real time or you want to iterate really quickly. So one, we have to get it on transparency. Two, we have to make it look decent, maybe not have it affected by lights. Right now, if I turn off the sunlight, see it's affected by lights, which you may or may not want. This is the auto brightening that I'm talking about too. Step one, let's make it transparent. If materials are paint, that means I need to make a change to the material. So I'm going to double click on the material in my content browser. It's the green one, M_Shanti. Double click on it. New Unreal stuff, very useful when you're working on a tiny laptop screen. Drag your tabs to here so you can snap them so you can stay organized. This is the material view for this material. We are modifying the material. Right now, you can see that RGB, which is the color values for the texture, are plugged into base color. That makes sense. But the alpha channel, A, and here you see things like RGB, which we mentioned a little bit ago. If you want to output individual color channels, you can do that too. We're not going to get into that because it's a little advanced. We want to output the alpha channel, which this has because it's a PNG. Remember from Explore, these are transparent. Transparent. Cat looks a little grumpy there. So I'm going to grab and drag out a wire from A and drag that to opacity. You might notice that it is grayed out. That's by default. Translucent textures or translucent materials are expensive computationally. So the vast majority of your materials are not transparent. You don't want to make things transparent unless you need transparency because it's aggressive and intense on your computer. There's two of these too, opacity and opacity mask. I'll show you the difference between the two. Actually, you know what? I'll drag this to opacity mask first to show you the chunky looking one. It's grayed out. I need to make it not grayed out. So if you click on the big node over here, you will get the details options for the material itself. We need to change blend mode from opaque to masked in this example. When you change it to masked, you'll see that opacity mask now becomes available. And if I look at this in the little preview window here, let me make this a little bigger. If you're new to Unreal, you can change the shape of the preview. You can put it on a sphere, you can put it on a cylinder, you can put it on a plane. Rotate it around with my mouse buttons. Putting people on spheres always makes them look really weird, bloated and stuff. So I'm going to click the plane button up top just to put it on a plane because that's what we're doing. So if I zoom in on this, it looks kind of harsh, right? Like look at that harsh edge on the fur. Certainly does not look like the luscious, grumpy looking fur that we have here, right? Let's do this side by side here. Look at the difference between that. Chunky and nice. Kind of looks like that DSLR versus Blackmagic footage that I showed you too. Opacity mask is very useful, but not for fine detail video footage like this. It's more for cutting out things that have harsh edges to them, which is a common thing, but not with video footage. Instead, we want to change the blend mode not to masked, but we want to change it to translucent. Translucent, and then we have to switch it from opacity mask to opacity. Pro tip, Unreal Engine novices, you can use control click to grab onto wires that you've already placed and kind of readjust them, or you can alt click on them. I guess it's option click on a Mac to delete them, or you can have it connected to two things at the same time. It's not going to break anything. It's fine. Check it out now. Look at that. Looks like the Windows Explorer preview, right? Click Save. I'm never going to open up this material window again. Close it down if we want. Look at that. Ta-da. You know what? I'm going to rotate this plane up too so she's not face down. So if you're new to Unreal Engine, these are the translation widgets. You can use the W, E, and R keys on your keyboard to go from transformation or translation. E is rotation. R is scale. You can scale in one axis, or you can do it uniformly, which is what you're going to want to do uniformly. You can also use the space bar to cycle through these things. You can also use the buttons up top here to select them too. Lots of different ways to do the same thing. I'm going to rotate her 90 degrees. You can see it's rotating over here 90 degrees or 89.9999999. Now she's rotated. Maybe I'll make her a little bigger. And now if I played it from the media player again, you don't have to do this. I'm just showing you. Look at that. Now she's playing in the sky. Looks all right. She's still a little washed out. And, it doesn't loop or anything, which is fine. Also, if you look at it from distance, you might see there's some like some smearing and tearing. We can talk about that tearing in a little bit if we have time. It's just anti-aliasing that's happening, which is very useful in games, but less useful for us making videos. Anti-aliasing gets rid of jagged edges in computer graphics because everything's made out of jagged edge triangles and pixels. So anti-aliasing helps smooth things. In this case, it's also smoothing temporally, so time-based wise, which is what it makes it, giving us a loss of detail there. You can tell from the TV. But the point is that now we have a video that is playing and it is transparent background. Awesome. One more step to put it on a timeline. We need to create a timeline. Timeline in Unreal is called sequencer. They're called sequences. Functions like any timeline that you've ever used in a software that has a timeline. Premiere, Resolve, After Effects, Final Cut, CapCut, whatever. Anything that has a timeline, it's the same idea. Unreal Engine, it's called sequence. Easiest way to create a sequence is to go up here to the slate icon, click the drop down, and say add level sequence. I'm going to call this LS for level sequence, LS Shanti. When you do that, you should get a new tab in the bottom, and you should see an empty timeline. Congratulations, you have an empty timeline, which you can scrub like any timeline. Has in points which are green and out points which are red. You can stretch the time by setting the beginning and ends down at the bottom. It has play buttons down here, jump to keyframe buttons if we had keyframes, but we don't yet. Lots of different things. Let's start adding this video footage to the timeline so we can scrub it. It's very important in Unreal Engine that we put our video on a timeline. If you've ever brought video into Unreal Engine before using video plates or media plates, sure, you can get the video in there. But when you render it out, you need it on a timeline because we need to render every frame of footage out of Unreal Engine and have it be in sync with our video footage. If you don't have it on a timeline and you just have your video play when you click play, your timeline and your timeline in Unreal and your video footage timeline can get out of sync, which is not good. You want one frame of video for one frame of Unreal Engine. If that doesn't make sense to you, that's fine. Just do what I'm telling you to do, and it will be great. Let's add our media plate to the timeline as a track. So like with most things in Unreal Engine, there's a green button to click called Add. So go ahead and click Add, and then go to Media Track. A little TV icon. Adds new media track that can play media sources. That's great. We created media sources. We created that movie player. So create media track, and it will put a track down here. There is a little plus next to this track. Click the plus and go to media source. Media source, and assuming you created the image media source file, which you all did because you're great students and following along, you can go ahead and select that one. Keep in mind, if you have a bunch of footages, you might have lots of these. We only have one in this case because this is a brand new project and I only created one. Check that out. Things are happening here. It looks like it put the video footage on my timeline. Note that, see, I scrubbed my timeline to frame 56 here, so it started there. You can always grab it and drag it back to frame 0. Also note that in this case, it looks like my footage is longer than my timeline. That's all right. I can make my timeline longer by grabbing these numbers here and making it longer. And then I could jump to the end of my footage, which seems like it is frame 231. Let's see if I look here, how many frames is this? Yep, 0231. And so I can put my timeline indicator there. I could grab onto the red end of a workspace thing, or I can click the little red button down here to set the end of the workspace. Now it's there. Notice if I scrub, nothing happens. We've done all this stuff and still it's not working. It's because you have to do this little tedious thing where you right click on your media track, go to properties, go down here and assign the media texture. You have to do this because every video that you create will have a unique media texture, but you can actually use the same media player for every single texture, which is kind of convoluted. Makes sense if you're making a game. It's kind of annoying in making films. So right click, properties, media texture, and then pick your media texture that you created, which in this case is MT_underscore Shanti. We only created one. There's probably a lot of other ones in there, default ones and such. Just click the one that you need. Uh-oh, she moved. Moment of truth. Yeah, I'm scrubbing. I can hit the space bar to play or click the play button. Hooray, she's playing. Go down here and click loop if you want to. Congratulations, y'all. We're playing video in Unreal Engine. Pretty important thing to be able to do. Other things that you should know. In the interest of time, how much do I want to tell you? Well, I think for our purposes, for your homework, it's important for you to know how to get rid of the smearing, which if it's up close, I don't know if you even notice it. Oh, can you see smearing happening? Not really. If I go kind of farish away like this, can you see that happening on her face and stuff? It's like there's some jitter. Looks like there's some noise there. Well, I can show you how to change that. If you go to Edit, Project Settings, and you in the search button up top, you type in anti for anti-aliasing, and you change the anti-aliasing method from temporal super resolution, and you change that to FXAA. It will get rid of that in editor. It's not there anymore at all. My suggestion for you is if it bothers you, if you can't stomach working with it smeared, do what I just did. Change it to FXAA anti-aliasing. When you render your footage out from Unreal though, I suggest changing it back because that's what's going to make all of your Unreal stuff look better. The video footage doesn't matter. We're not going to render the video footage out of Unreal for our real projects. We're going to composite that back in After Effects, right? Today, I'm not asking you to composite in After Effects. I'm asking you to just render it straight out from Unreal and be happy with that. But in the future, you're going to want to change this back to one of these better rendering methods. Because now our video footage looks good, but our backgrounds don't look as good as they could. This looks fine because it's just a sky. But if there's a lot of detailed things in the background here, that wouldn't be the case. Everybody with me? Great. Because it's a lot of stuff. I just slammed through a lot of stuff, especially if you're new to Unreal. I don't know, do you even know how to navigate around? I think you can probably figure it out, but if you're with me, that's great. All right, what else? Well, the assignment was to create a virtual world and put some sort of footage into it, I need to show you how to render things out from Unreal Engine still. For this assignment, I think I will show you how to render out of Unreal Engine. If you're having trouble for the assignment rendering out on Unreal Engine and you want to like just screen record it with the OBS, like just brute force it, that's fine. I'm never gonna know. But let's look at rendering out anyways. So if you built a little world for your project now, actually we should probably look at that first. So if I go back to my content browser, notice that there's a little tab down here called Fab. If you don't see Fab there, you can also get Fab from the window menu up top and then down here, Fab. That's going to pop up the Fab tab. Which is currently blank for me. Awesome. Error. Oh no. What's going on? Oops. Accidentally closed down my... If you ever close Windows accidentally, you can always go up to Window like any software and reopen them. Why is Fab not working? That's weird. I just clicked it again and it came up. Didn't I tell you that Fab sucks? Yeah, that was an unexpected problem. But now let's add some assets. You can browse in here. You can set things by price. Let's sort by. I'm not going to show you how to do sorting and anything. That's pretty self-explanatory. Drop down menu, lowest price source. Let's see what we can get here. I'm not trying to make anything amazing here, so don't judge me by my Ezekiel Bunny free asset that I'm going to download. If you click on an asset that you find, usually most assets give you like a little preview here and you can check out details about them. Still no rating system. Or there is comments finally. But not for this asset. And when you find something you want, you just add it to project. In this case, this little bunny should come right over. Famous last words. Where's it at? Oh, there we go. Whew. If I go back to the content browser instead of the Fab tab, you can see in my content window, I now have a folder called Fab, which makes sense. Got these assets from Fab. But now I have a folder called Rabbit. So now if I go into the window for Rabbit, you can look at the meshes, the static meshes. Static meshes are 3D meshes that you can drag into your world. Drag the bunny rabbit in. Move him up. Scale him up. This is annoying because the pivot for the rabbit is not on its feet, but on the top of its back. This is kind of a crappy asset, to be honest. But whatever. In our case, maybe it makes sense to get some clouds. So I think I have some clouds in my own project, in my own library from who knows when. So maybe I'll bring those. Cloud lighting system. I don't know what that is. You can also go to the Epic Launcher, and in the Library tab, you have a list of all of your assets. This was the old way to import assets to Unreal. I'm still partial to doing it this way because Fab seems like it crashes all the time. I have some clouds of my own that I'm going to add. If you ever find an asset that when you go to add it, it doesn't list your project, this project is called VP_NYU. If it doesn't find it for some reason, oh man, this is a real problem here. Usually you can click this button and it will show up. But in this case, that's not showing up. You know why? Because it also doesn't show up in my library up here. Remember, I just forgot about that problem. Let me try something. Let me save and then try to reopen the project and see if that fixes things. This would be a good example to show where projects go. I don't even know where this project, oh look, it did pop up now. Now it popped up after I closed the project. What do you know? Don't panic, just restart and everything will be all right, right? Anyways, I was looking at this cloud asset. When you add assets to a project from the launcher, it's only gonna show the projects that that asset supports. This cloud asset was made a long time ago. So we're using 5.6, which is the most recent version, and the clouds don't support 5.6. It's fine because it's just clouds, it's just static mesh and textures. It's not, there's no code or anything, so it's going to work. But just click on the Show All Projects button, and sure enough, it will be there. And then just in the drop down here, go and find the latest version that is listed that the asset was upgraded to work with formally. In this case, 5.3. Now I can add it to the project. That was a very small asset. Now it should be in my project. I closed my project, so I'm going to reopen it. Let that reopen. If I look in my content browser now, there's my asset that I added from the launcher instead of from the Fab tab. You can use either method. Quantum meta clouds, whatever these guys are. Let's see what we got here. I don't even really remember what these are. It might be trash. But let me just try to add. Maybe it is trash. I don't know. Oh, that's kind of a cloud. Do I have to rotate it? Oh, there. Yeah, I do have to rotate it. This is another thing about the marketplace. You don't necessarily always know what you're getting. It's a roll of the dice, right? So do your research if you can. If there's comments, check out the comments. If there's a link to a video or a Sketchfab page or an ArtStation page, check it out. Yeah, and, once you buy it, if you're paying money, you're not going to get a refund. The reason that this is black again now is because I don't have Sequencer open. So because this project already had Sequencer set up, I can click on the slate up top again, little drop down. It's going to show whatever sequences you have available. You can have as many sequences as you want in a project. Usually one is enough though. Click on my sequence, it will pop back up. And sure enough, I can scrub my video again. Hooray. In the interest of time, I think I'm actually not going to show you how to render from Unreal. So for your assignment, you just screen record. We'll get into cameras and the proper rendering in a feature class, which I think actually makes more sense because that's when we actually start to use proper files and you will have nicer worlds built at that time. So what I'm asking for the assignment is for you to frame up something in your viewport, hit the play button in Sequencer, screen record. Does that make sense? Question? It's fine. Fine. When the render queue plays, it will play the video. If the video plays when you hit spacebar in here, it should absolutely play in the render queue. If it doesn't, that's strange. And then you should panic. Any other questions? I'm more interested in making, I'm not super interested in your quality of render right now because I'm more interested in making sure everybody can build some sort of world mostly more interested in being able to get assets into the world and start to build that pipeline, and also set up video files and do some sort of rudimentary keying in After Effects, which is what we're going to look at in 15 minutes. Have you ever done a 15-minute speed run in keying in After Effects? Let's go. Everybody all right with the Unreal stuff? Okay. Again, if you need more support in the Unreal, talk to me in class, after class, and I'll link you to some more stuff to look at and talk to you about that. All right, so this video footage was already keyed out for you and everything, right? It was all already did that. Now we're gonna do it ourselves, all right? So we're gonna use After Effects, and at a later time, I'll show you how to do it in Resolve, which, again, I would suggest never using Premiere or After Effects again, and just using Resolve and Fusion, but that's up to you. So I have some green screen footage that I gave you. For your assignment, you're welcome to use your own green screen footage. If that means stealing it from somewhere, I don't care. If you have footage that you've recorded yourself, I don't care. If you want to use my example footage that you downloaded from me, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Okay? This is less a creative exercise and more of a technical exercise for this assignment. There'll be plenty of time for the creativity. For those of you that have never used After Effects before, which is very few of you, welcome to After Effects. It's the Photoshop of video, you could say. It's a 2.5D motion graphics / compositing software. I'm going to just go through the motions here. So this is the project window. I'm going to right click. There's a lot of different things to do the same thing in this software. I'm just going to show you what I think is easiest. Right click in the project window. Oops, don't create a folder. Right click, import, file. It's going to ask you where your files are. Mine happen to be in this keying folder. You're going to the ex_files_a_guru_keylight, wherever I stole this from a long time ago. Exercise files, movies, it's buried in here. An MP4 file, MP4s and PNGs, you just got done saying how much they sucked. It's all right for our exercise now. You'll appreciate the quality of the better cameras now, having seen this. The MP4 file, if you have an image sequence, make sure that you check sequence down here. I don't have any image sequences in here. If I did go to my sequence folder, let me back up here and go to Shanti. I know this is already keyed out, but assume this was just on green screen, which I actually don't know. That might be in the zip file that I gave you too. You got to make sure that you check the box for telling the software this is an image sequence. In our case, for this demo right now, it's an MP4 file, so it's a video file. It's not a sequence, so you don't need to check that box. This is video footage of this woman shaking her head around on a fairly seamless fabric background. Should be pretty easy to do, right? All right. I'm going to drag the footage. I'm going to click, left click and hold and drag the footage down here to my composition window. If you don't know what compositions are in After Effects, think of them sort of like sequences in Premiere. It's where you can put footage and layers into. It's where everything happens. All right, so now I have access on the timeline down here for my footage. This is very simple to do. We're not doing any advanced compositing. We're just doing keying. So in After Effects, over in the Effects and Presets menu with the default layout, you click on Keying and go down to Key Lights, or you can just go to the search and type in Key Lights. We want to click, you could double click on it with the layer selected. You could click and hold and drag it onto the footage in the window. You could drag it onto the layer down here. Lots of different ways. It's up to you. Drop it on. All right, let's go through the steps here. So this is the key light effect. Notice that we are now in the Effects Controls tab. You can click back and forth between the Project tab to see all your assets and the Effects Controls tab. First step, we kind of just go down the steps. We're going to click the eyedropper on screen color. Where do I want to put this? As close to my subject. Close to my subject. I don't want to put it up here in the corner because I don't really care about up in the corner. I care about the area around her hair. She moves around, so parts of the green screen out to here are going to be important, right? It's not like she's holding still. If this was a still, I would literally only care about the edge right next to her. But she's never going to the top corner, so I don't really care about that. I'm going to click right next to her hair. Ta-da. In After Effects, by default, transparency is black. If you actually want to see what it looks like on the transparency grid, single click on the little grid icon right here. That will show you the transparency grid. If you play it, looks pretty good. Looks pretty good, but it's actually kind of garbage. Let me show you. Right now I'm looking at the final result drop down up top here. If I click and look at Screen Matte shows you a masked view. In video, masks are called mattes, M-A-T-T-E, just like a mask in Photoshop. Look at all this noise. If I play this, you will see all the noise in the background. It's not terrible, but it could be better. So what we're going to do is we are going to play with screen gain and screen balance, and we're going to click the drop down for screen matte here and play around with some of these other settings. Screen gain is usually what I start with. I like to increase this value until it looks good around my subject. By subject, I mean her hair. There is a little noise over here. I'm not super worried about that. I want a clean-ish cutout around her body. This is a pretty decent green screen background. It's not perfect, so I'm not too worried about this. Next thing, I want to play around with screen balance. This looks horrifying. Don't do that. Screen balance, you are trying to balance between the transparent and opaque pixels. The opaque pixels are white, the transparent pixels are black. Find a happy medium between them. Remember, the goal here is getting her hair to look good. 45 seems to be all right for me, 104 for gain. This is going to depend where you click with the eyedropper. Your numbers are not going to be the same. Next step, play around with clip black and clip white. Bring up clip black until it gets rid of the rest of the garbage. If you crank this, it starts to eat into the hair. Be gentle with these settings. It will look like trash very quickly. After you do this, you can go back to the drop down, get out of screen matte mode, look at final results. Now think that it looks pretty decent. Cool, happy with that. Another thing that I like to do is change this replace method from soft color to source. She has a little bit of green screen spill on her, so I'm going to add another effect called spill suppressor, advanced spill suppressor. I'm going to drag this on, and usually I'm happy just with how this looks with its default settings. And I feel all right about that. Hooray. Look at her. I can add a bunch of these and move them around and place her on top of each other, and she's transparent. Beautiful, right? But you need to know how to render. Keep in mind that this is 16:9 video right now. The Shanti the Cat with Miley Cyrus video that you got was already made into a square. When you import things into Unreal Engine, textures are expected to be a square. It's all right. You can make this a square if you know how to in After Effects. You can go ahead and do that. Or you could make your plane in Unreal. You could make that 16:9 instead. And then if you try to put a square texture, or if you try to put a 16:9 video texture onto a square plane, it's going to look mushed. Last thing is I just need to show you how to render this out. So composition, add to render queue. You could use the Adobe render queue too if you wanted to, but I'm going to add to render queue. Image sequences, not MP4s. So add to render queue, click on the blue word output module. Currently it says lossless. I'm going to change the format to PNG. We haven't talked about EXRs yet. It's fine. PNG because we need transparency. If you want to make a square composition and put this in there and do that and make it a square texture, you're welcome to do that. I don't have time. I have 3 minutes. So I'm going to click OK here. You choose where you want to save it at. I'm going to put it in my keying folder. I'll call this new render. New render. Notice that it's already being called a sequential file here. I don't know, maybe I'll just call this green screen test. And save. And click render. Let it do its rendering. And you can see as it's rendering here, I'm going to go back to the folder that it's dumping into. There we go. Whoopsies. It's rendering out on black. Missed a crucial step. Stop that render. Abort, abort. With these live demos, the possibility of failure is always high. Apologies for that. You will that will become a common meme. Epic failure. When you change your PNG sequence, you need to change the color depth. So right now it's set to RGB channel. We want to set this to RGB alpha. Very crucial. Otherwise, it's not going to render out an alpha channel. Click OK. Everything else was already set up. Click render. Now we should get files that are on transparency. And then you just do the same thing that we did with Unreal. It's the same thing. The only difference is because this is 16:9, you know. I'll show you with 1 minute remaining. If I dragged this in, I'm not making a video file out of this. I'm just going to show you what the squash looks like for the 16:9. So you can already see she's stretched, right? In the thumbnail preview. Not in the, when you double click it, but if I put her on the plane, right? If I made my plane 16:9, if I went into the settings here and I changed it to 16 by, what is that, the z-axis I guess? 16:9, and then I uniformly scale it down because I don't want to do the math. Now she's not. Now my plane, if you don't believe me, here, see the plane is now 16:9, so she's not squashing. Okay. So either make your plane in Unreal 16:9 or render it out as a square texture, image sequence of textures. All right. And then, yeah, bring that into Unreal. Build a little world around it to your heart's content. You know, this is an opportunity for you to get comfortable with world building if that's something that you are not comfortable with. For those of you that are more Unreal Engine pros, this is kind of just refresh, right? Minus the video stuff maybe. All right. So yeah, if you're Unreal Engine expert, impress me. Questions? Okay. and then upload that to your documentation blog, post that link on Discord. Questions? Questions? All right. I forgot to take attendance really quick. So while you're all hostage still, I'm going to keep you for one more minute and do that again because we had some people add and drop. Apologies, still learning your names. Dazi, I looked in the right person. Daza. I'll get it next week, I promise. Marilyn. DJ. Wu Young. If you change seats, that complicates things for me. Ava. Nini. Nini. Jericho. Allison, no. Dylan. Same seat. Also, we talked in like July, right? Yeah. Rosalind. Vivian. Jesse. Moira. Moira, you weren't here last week, right? Okay. But you're here now. You here next week? Okay. Awesome. Yu Ting. Joyce. Joyce, you changed seats. Brenda. Brenda, you changed seats. But I still remember you. All right. See you next week. Next week, we're going to go into the studio. I think we'll shoot some stuff next week is the plan. And it'll be fun. All right. Yep, see you. Oh, stop.